This is the E-Commerce Edge podcast with your host, Jason Greenwood. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the E-Commerce Edge podcast. And before I introduce my next incredible guest to you today, I would like to encourage you to go to wherever it is that you're listening to this podcast, wherever you consume your podcast, wherever you consume your video content, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Spotify, whether it's Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else. Like, share, and comment if you possibly can. We rely on you to market our amazing content and our incredible guests. We've got a back catalog of over 455 episodes now for you to consume and binge watch or listen to. So we really appreciate your help. But without further ado, it would be my pleasure to welcome John GARGIULO from Airpost to the podcast. Welcome, John.
Thanks, Jason.
It is awesome to have you along with me for the ride today. And before we get into this whole Airpost thing and what it is and what it does and this incredible platform that you and your team are building, why don't you tell me how you got into this space? Because if I look back across your history, you've been working in the performance marketing space, the creative space, the video creative space for a long time now. This is definitely not your first rodeo, but it feels, based on your experience, you were like, hey, we do this as an agency, we provide these services, but we think we can bring some tech enablement to this space based on what we know how to bring scalability and democratizing access to UGC to even small and medium-sized brands, based on the experience we've got doing it for big brands.
That's exactly right. I think advertising's been begging for tech enablement for decades, and agencies will do things here and there, but it's never really happened. And I think looking forward with AI and AI agents, which we can get into, and these agentic workflows where the AI can not only think, but do, it's going to change how you advertise an e-com company forever, pretty soon. For me and my history, I started as a brand guy. I went to Miami Ad School to be a copywriter, worked in New York in agency life, and then was at Airbnb for a few years in marketing during the go-go times, and saw this gap between performance marketing world, which is like, what are my metrics? If I'm not making back 100% of my money plus 5, 10% in 30 days, why am I doing it? And the brand world that I came from, and my amazing boss and mentor at Airbnb, our CMO, Jonathan, who thought about, that's all very nice and good, but if we build something that everyone in the country is talking about and the world is talking about, it supersedes all of that, those statistics and spreadsheets. And I felt like there's not a company that respects and gets both the brand side and the performance side. And in 2019, I started ReadySet with Sambu Makalu, and we have grown a lot. And we now do all of the ads across all of DoorDash, Dasher, Consumer, Merchant, Robinhood, Hims and Hers. And coming out of that experience of building a large digital agency, it was like, you know what? This disruption is coming. AI is going to be able to do this for everybody and democratize this for everybody, this being creative and eventually media strategy, buying, scaling. We ought to be the first to do it. Let's disrupt ourselves. And that's what we're doing with Airpost.
Wow, incredible. And give us the problem statement for what you said. Look, okay, there's maybe 5 or 6 different ways we could take this Airpost platform / product. We can make it we can use this technology to make us as an agency more scalable. So basically almost like a combination of agency services, white glove services combined with tech enablement, or we can make this a completely SaaS-based platform that's completely self-service that brands can manage completely on their own without the assistance of an agency. And I guess the tagline, so to speak, and in all transparency, I've never used the Airpost platform before, so I'm just going on what's
well, you're grokking very well. Exactly. It's agencies mostly suck. And if you're a small e-com seller trying to grow and you're busy with 18 other things and inventory is running out on the thing that's selling that you didn't think was selling, and the UPS guy's there, and like you had to fire someone that week, and you really depend on your agency. But it's not agency's fault. Like agencies can't go down to, I was just talking to an Airpost customer. She's like, yeah, my agency sucks. I have to fire them. They're doing some creatives for me. They do all my media buying. And I asked, how much do you pay them a month? And she said, I pay them $1,000 a month. And I was just thinking, just physically, like human minimum wage, who could you get to do a good job for you, doing these really important things for your business, acquiring and retaining customers for that little? And you only have that little to spend. So there's a gap. So long term, Airpost is meant to really be that solution, like first principles. What are you hiring an agency for? What's my strategy for media? What's my creative strategy? How do I acquire more customers for less? That's why you hire an agency. Airpost is meant to solve for that. Short term, what we're starting with is the hardest part, actually, which is the creative. I need video ads. I see Zuckerberg at earnings calls and conferences talking about how video, you need to be running video, even LinkedIn, everything. It's hungry. These algorithms are hungry for vertical video. That same frazzled like ecom founder or head of marketing does not have time to go DIY it themselves, deal with a bunch of creators who didn't get the package and the PayPal didn't go through and blah, 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 or have an agency that they're paying this middleman now to do all this stuff. So what Airpost does is super simply with a bunch of briefing inputs that you do that are actually even pre-drafted for you because it knows your product by entering in a URL of your product page or Amazon page. It just says, great, we got you. How about these 100 video ads? And the video ads are not AI weird people staring at the camera with a bad lip sync, but instead it's real actors. We've got the largest video library, over 300,000 vertical video shots that we've accumulated over the years. It's your product shots from your Google Drive that many ecom founders already have. And it's these ingredients. It's the voiceover that we're bouncing off 11 Labs. It's the specific ads themselves. It's the music. And we put all these ingredients together to these recipes and we make dishes and we serve them up. And there you go. So that's the solution in the short term. Long term, I don't think you'll be hiring a Mad Men style agency in 10 years for your ecom brand.
Right. So okay, cool. Amazing description of kind of what your vision for the platform is, and I guess the go-to-market offering and what differentiates you from maybe competitors, etc. But I'm guessing that one of the goals behind this is because we know that the largest brands, they've got in-house studios, they've got in-house actors and actresses that they hire, they've got full video production capabilities, post-production capabilities, editing capabilities, all the rest. And then, of course, they've got the capability of doing distribution of all this amazing content in-house, right? So they've got a team of maybe 25 or 30 people, these big brands, and all they're focused on is content, right? And so for the medium size, let's say you're a brand that's doing 50 million bucks or more a year in revenues, you probably have some form of an internal team that's managing and owning a lot of this, and you won't necessarily need to outsource a tremendous amount of this to agency partners. But if you're below that, if you're say zero, meaning startup, all the way to say 50 or 100 million bucks, then you probably don't have a team for that. Maybe you've got the founder who's wearing 50 different hats. They're trying to film some selfie content. They're trying to do some content in their kitchen. They're trying to do some content in their living room or their home office or something like that, because almost everybody's working from home now. And so we've got to provide something that bridges that gap, that gets someone from that scrappy home studio, iPhone on a tripod type of scenario, from that to the $50, $100 million business that has some real serious in-house resources or can afford top shelf agency resources at that point to assist them and support them in those content production efforts. It feels like you want to be that perfect gap filler in between.
Yeah, I've never thought of it that way, but that's exactly right. That's exactly right. There is a huge ocean of e-commerce companies in that sub 50 million range, some a lot smaller, who are really struggling because they can't afford a good agency like the $50 million guy can. And they can't afford all the time and exhaustive effort it takes, not only to do it yourself at home, forget that. A lot of them just don't even want to bother with that, but figuring out this whole thing, like what am I supposed to put on Facebook, TikTok? Do I need square video or only vertical? What do I say in the videos? Okay, I had fun doing this for a couple of weeks. I got to come up with more scripts every week. Facebook's telling me I need to have 5 times the volume. Okay, let me hire my nephew. Okay, that didn't work out. Let's go on one of these creator platforms. I met one, she has a confection business. She's 8 people. She paid them $7,500 guaranteed over 3 months. She got a ton of videos. None of them worked. It was a lot of her time. She had to send things to hundreds of people. I really feel for e-commerce founders who are going through this. And you're right, they're caught in this valley.
And so let's just talk about the process of using Airpost. You're still in beta. You're in waitlist mode. I'm guessing you've got a couple of design partners or beta test partners customers that you're already working with. I'm guessing that those customers dropped out of perhaps some of your agency partnerships that you've got with customers that are maybe a little bit smaller and maybe want to own some more of this in-house. let's walk through the process. So let's say there wasn't a wait list. Let's say Airpost was up and running today. I could go in, I could sign up. It says the tagline here is get new customized UGC or user generated content video ads every day for $149 a month. Now that sounds almost too good to be true, but walk me through the process.
Yeah, I've interviewed over 50 customers and I keep hearing that phrase. So we're raising
it sounds too good to be true. So, you must be on the right track somewhere.
Yeah,
So
and you know what's really fun, Jason? I have customer calls every day, just getting feedback. And the one yesterday, it lights me up every time. I asked her, what was the feeling when you finally, she's, I don't know what to expect. This seemed too good to be true. And then I opened the thing up. What was the feeling when you saw the ads? And she said, I was so excited. I like slacked I have her read me the slacks that she wrote to her boss and all this stuff because it is new. It's just making ads out of whole cloth. So let me explain the process. It's super simple because again, e-com founders don't have time for not simple. You show up, this is post waitlist coming out of beta 2025, right? You show up, it says, what is the URL of the product you would like to advertise? The specific product. I want to advertise my scented candle line or the specific gateway scent that's working called vanilla. Great. What's the Amazon page for this specifically or the PDP, the product detail page on your website? Please put link here. And you can do that. And if you have another link to the, I don't know, Shopify or Amazon or whatever, you put that second. Throw another link in there if you like. And you hit submit. And it says, great, hang on 10 seconds. Then it unfurls essentially what's essentially a brief that's pre-filled because nobody likes filling out briefs. And it says, great, here are the top 15 value propositions. We started with 5. Turns out AI is really good at figuring out 15 that might be valuable. Cruelty-free packaging, things like that, or manufacturing. So there's 15 value props. What are 5 problems, just the name of the problem that this helps solve, right? To your question earlier. And I could go on and on. Things not to mention in the ads. Are there any discounts going on? Talk about Prime Day, blah, 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 blah. And it's all pre-filled. It's all very Fisher-Pricey and easy and clicky and slide these value props in order of priority. Once you have that brief and you edit it and you fix it up, you hit submit. It says, great. Do you have video? Do you have photos? Simply drag and drop your big old file that's been sitting on your computer, 3.8 gigs of stuff over the last few years, that creator project you did for 7,500 that you have all those videos but you haven't used, hook up your drive, whatever. You dump that in. Can we scrape your Instagram? You may not have all that stuff, but like we can go scrape it. Yes, great, go Airpost, do that. Minutes later, what has happened is there's now the ads tab of the product. And we've taken all of those raw ingredients. We have a tool that we're getting a patent on now that auto selects, that reads those 3.8 gigabytes of clips you sent and auto cuts 1 to 4 second bits that don't have super copy over them, that don't have little shots of you using the product or some whatever. And we ingest all of that as these video clips. We make hundreds of ads that are of different frameworks. 3 reasons why, a problem solution, a long narrative story that's emotional about this problem this person had before it shifts 20 seconds later to the solution and the product, right? You get the picture. That's a big part of the value we're hearing from customers. Like all the ideation, this is what works. And then it produces all the ads. So now you're just scrubbing through 100 ads that you just met this company an hour ago that are fully baked for you. And then lastly, you can edit them. So, oh, that's awesome. I love this whole guy's telling the story. This seems really real. And you see all these shots of Caucasian hands using the product from something that you forgot was in your drive. And then you see a Caucasian dude on a run and you're like, oh, that's amazing. It feels like that's the same guy. And we wrote a script and you hear a voiceover and you can edit it. So hopefully that shows you the end-to-end process.
Incredible. And then I'm guessing what happens in a scenario where they don't have anything, or maybe they've only got 3 product images, right? And it's not in situ. They've been clear cut. There's nothing in the background. It's a white background product. It's not active. It's not. Maybe they're high quality enough for you to actually see the product. Maybe even see the texture of a fabric or something like that. But there's no. They don't have any pre-clipped or pre-created videos of any kind. They don't have any in situ images of any kind. They've got just really simplistic something that they've almost shot on a really basic cyclotron background with this product, and that's it. That's all they've got.
Happen quite a bit because a lot of founders haven't had time to do production either.
Yes.
But like you said, everybody's got the product over a white background shot ready for their product page. So we have 2 options for people there. Option 1 is we actually will shoot for you. So because of our experience building the big agency Ready Set, where we shoot thousands of things a year for all these big clients, we are really good and really hyper efficient at shooting. We've designed a process we call internally hyper production, where for like low hundreds of dollars, we can actually, a cost to us, we can shoot 30 plus video shots of your product in use, product being unboxed, all of that stuff, a step-by-step process of using the product, and get it to you really quickly for a price that's really inexpensive. Probably you've heard of Suna, for example, right? They're sort of tech-enabled way to shoot stuff. Think Suna, but a third the price and focused on video for ads. So we will do that for you within a couple of weeks. You just send the product to our LA studio. We've got a 10,000 square foot LA studio with all kinds of different sets, bathrooms, bedrooms, backsplashes that interchange, purpose built for this. Okay, so that's option one. Option two is, so what we can do is take that image of your product over white and put it in situ with AI. So these are partners of ours that we work with, and it's getting really good where we can say, see, AI, this is a few pictures of the product, or one picture of the product. Put this skin cream on a modern marble bathroom shelf, and it'll make a photo in our back end of that looks realistic. Only problem we're still playing with right now is the scale. Sometimes it makes the thing look like 5 feet tall. Sometimes it looks too tiny, but like 8 out of 10 times it gets it. Great. Then we pass it over to a video API that then animates it. We use prompts that gently and subtly have someone maybe pick up the bottle in slow motion and pick it up, etc. I just gave you one example. We have hundreds of prompts, both to make the photos and to animate them. Then all of a sudden you're looking at a huge library of stuff. Now, is it good? It's okay. It's a B- right now. The way that we solve for that is, let's say you take path 2. We produce, quote unquote, all of these AI videos of your product in these situations. And you're like, oh my God, half of these are weird. Half of them look really good and really realistic. In your media library in Airpost, you just hack away and X out all the ones you do not want to see in your ads. You can curate that library regardless. And then the AI engine works with what you have approved.
Amazing. And I see on your homepage as of now, because as I said, it's still in beta, but it says we shoot step 2, we shoot your product for free. So I guess is that like an opening offer?
Yeah, that's going away. Yeah, that's going away because two things have happened. We realized we're really efficient at shooting, and we can shoot your product for free and still make money, but it's just not good business. Like we could also shoot your product for $700. I'm talking about 30 professional video shots. And I talk to people all the time, even founders that are one-person e-com places. They're like, yeah, I just spent $7,000 on a shoot. I've heard $20,000, $30,000 on a shoot. Or I use Suna, but their video packages are at least $3-4 grand. So we're like, yeah, okay, maybe not free, maybe $700. And the reason it backs out as at free for us, barely, is because it's a subscription. So you're paying this per month to use this stuff, and people are not churning. Like our 40, 50 design partners that you mentioned, like we've churned like 3 of them. So it backs out in the long run. But yeah, we'll be charging more for the shoots.
Okay, fair enough. And what happens, or what do you recommend for a brand that has a large catalog? Let's say they've got 10,000 SKUs or 100,000 SKUs or 500,000 SKUs.
Yeah.
Or they're in fashion and they have seasonal drops, or they have weekly drops, or they have monthly drops, and there's massive cycling of products going through their ranges. How do you feel like that works for brands like that?
I've talked to a few of those. It's not that uncommon, right? Most people have a bunch of SKUs or a lot of SKUs. For the next 6 to 12 months, we're not built for that. I'm only going to be credible if I tell you what we're not good at. We're not good at that. We're not good at multi-users logging in. We're not good at multi-product. The best we can do is, the way our engine is set up, send us either literally one specific product, your lead flavor of this protein pack or whatever, or a line of stuff. Okay, the Dr. Squatch soap, there's 8 of them, but as long as we're always advertising this line of 8, and it's okay to have some ads that focus on one or another, you're good. Once you're like, no, I am a marketplace of knickknacks and there's 8,612 of them, or 12 of them even, and I want to advertise all of them, literally what you need to do right now is sign up for an Airpost account with a different work email than the first time and a different product and go one by one. So it's more onerous on the user end for now. The 3 things we're focused on right now, Jason, are control, quality, and really making the AI imagery and video animation work. So we get asked every 5 customer calls for, hey, can I give you 10 products? This is great. Hey, can I give you 10 usernames? I want to give this to my whole agency. And we just have to focus and let those things wait for now.
Sure, fair enough. And so is it ultimately, though, your vision that, hey, look, let's say I'm an agency and I'm trying to work with SMBs, right? So I'm not targeting $50 million and above businesses. I'm targeting maybe the $0 to $20 million a year e-com brands. Maybe they're retail aggregators, maybe they're D2C brands, could be either one. But I want to take advantage of your platform ultimately, maybe not today and maybe not at launch, but say 12 months from now. I want to sign up for a team plan or an agency plan or something like that. And because my customers don't have the time or the inclination to even generate 1 image or 2 images or 3 images to upload to the system in the first place, I can do that. I can do that as the agency. But what I'm going to do is it's going to allow me to scale myself as an agency.
Yes.
With tech enablement and act as that essential bridge between the brand and the technology.
I had this call yesterday. A relatively sophisticated customer, she helps out this popcorn brand, and she submitted it for Airpost. We did a shoot for her. She's really happy with the ads. And she said, I also work in an agency, a pretty decent sized one, about 20, 30 people that represents, I think she said like they have 50, 60 clients, e-com companies. And that's exactly what she said. She said, I can white label you guys, in her case, and it just opens up a creative library of ads that I can use for all these great people that are doing pretty well, but don't have video. It's one of the top complaints of agencies, especially media buying firms, is I don't have much to work with here. And my DNA is not creative, certainly not video production. This is a huge unlock.
And certainly not at scale and certainly not cheap.
That would be exactly right. Yeah, they'll usually know some way to do it. She told me some things they've done with creators and shoots and things, but exactly what you said, not at scale and not cheap.
Wow. Okay. So the vision is ultimately to make this more broadly applicable, more broadly accessible. I'm guessing that ultimately you will make this platform also accessible via API. So that way I could basically connect to you via API as part of my production. And I can plumb, let's say I've got a PIM system, or let's say I've got a DAM or something like that. And I can plumb all of my information through some sort of a workflow engine that then can plumb all this stuff into you. I can get the data back out, maybe even retrieve all of the produced attributes or the content. I can then download that via API, get it back into my DAM system after it's been produced by you, post-produced by you.
Yep.
I'm guessing that automation, workflow automation, and integration with things like Photoshop or other platforms becomes really important if you want to become an integral part of some of these production house workflows.
Absolutely. That is absolutely an avenue. It's funny, I'm working on a deck now, and I'm working on a slide today about distribution. And that is one that I've thought of as well, which is an agency or a platform. Let's go all the way to Facebook or TikTok. They're always looking for new tech. Yeah, they're building with AI. TikTok is shipping really fast. If Facebook could say to their 10 million SMB customers, oh, by the way, here's a library of 100 ads to run, and they're good, or at least 50 of them are good, that could be very powerful for their ad revenue. And I know people in video rendering and other companies that have done 7-figure deals with Facebook and TikTok, or a big agency or a small agency that's got 50 SMB clients, 100%. The trick for us is we're so early, Jason, and it's like that word focus for me as a CEO is so important. And I want to chase all the things. But right now, we just got back from an offsite, and it's like control. I am meeting customers. They love the ads, but they really don't like how we say that one thing towards the end. And it's actually hard for them to change it. I've learned a lot about building editors, by the way. It's very hard. So we're trying to think from first principles, and just all they do, 90% of the time, they just want to change the words being said or written in the ads. Quality, these are great. Some of them are just okay. I thought it would be the opposite, by the way. I thought people would be like Shutterstock. Oh, cool, 1 million yoga photos. Most of these are cheesy, but I love that one. Instead, I'm struggling a little bit with, oh, but look here, I see a bad one there and an ad there I don't like. And it's like, don't you just want 5 ads this week? So control, quality, and then going shootless. Because in the past with our alpha, it was like we shoot everything, and our whole website's about to change over the year change here from 24 to 25. And it's all about, give me the URL, let's go.
Wow. So making it even more self-service than perhaps what you had originally
completely self-service, no humans in the loop, which I am learning is really rare for an AI product. Yeah, no humans in the loop at all. It's funny, I was just thinking, I I've been seeing this Scale AI company, Scale.ai, for a couple of years. I'm like, oh, wow, okay, they're one of these companies that's raised $1 billion. And I heard they work directly with the LLM people. And wow, they must have some like crazy deep tech. And I was reading about their latest fundraising. It's, yeah, so what they do, some investors are wondering how techy it is because they don't really do tech. They have thousands and thousands of employees all over the world who help train models. They like read
Yes.
things all day long and click. It's like basically a massive mechanical Turk with famous
Yes.
AI logo customers that is now worth billions of dollars. So most companies in AI have a lot of humans in the loop. I'm talking about something that has zero.
Wow. I mean, that's a pretty incredible vision. And what do you think? Do you feel that this is applicable to many B2B businesses? Because I know, for
Yeah.
example, that in the B2B world, which is where I'm now heavily playing and have done for the last 4 years, well, more than 4 years, is that the B2B world is only just now starting to get religion around things like SEO, because historically, even if a B2B brand had a e-commerce experience, it was gated, right? And so it was gated to not only the customer, but it was also gated to Google. And so they had no long tail SEO representation in Google at all. So therefore, they would not come up in a consideration set as
Right.
a supplier for someone that was searching Google for widget X manufacturer, widget X distributor, widget X wholesaler, right? They're getting religion around that now. They're realizing that digital customer acquisition is actually really important in the B2B world, especially in the new B2B world where exclusive distributorships are not really a thing anymore. So there's not as much monopolization of the market as there used to be. And so there's less protectionism in the market than
Yep.
what there used to be. So now we got to be able to go out and acquire new customers. Those customers tend to be really sticky because the B2B customer acquisition process and onboarding process is really detailed and it takes a long time, credit accounts, all that sort of stuff. But they are starting to realize, historically, when I worked with a B2B brand, 99% of the time, they wouldn't even have a marketing person. They wouldn't have a marketing department. They would have a sales team. They would have a sales department. They would field sales, in-house, inside sales, etc. But they wouldn't necessarily have marketing, right? Now they're starting to get religion. Oh my God, actually, we probably need to do some marketing. We need to do product marketing. We need to do service marketing. We need to do all these. We need to do all these different things, right? We need to do brand marketing. Then they're also all of a sudden starting to get religion around digital marketing, meaning that, oh, okay, cool. We can do organic, we can do paid and performance, we can do content marketing, we can do influencer marketing. And they're starting to go, oh my word, we're bringing maybe someone in from the outside who maybe came from the D2C or B2C world, and they're helping us get religion around how we can basically up our digital game across the board. So how applicable, I mean, it's one of those things where you wouldn't necessarily think that marketing a pump better would help to sell it more. However, if you saw a pump in use, actually pumping water, for example, or in situ in a brewery because they're supplying hygienic pumping units into a food service application, then all of a sudden, wow,
Yeah.
we're still humans at the end of the day, and we still like being sold to. We still like having the values and benefits of a product sold to us and say, this is what makes us better than XYZ competitor product. So how do you see you starting to work in with the B2B world where aesthetics of a product aren't necessarily as important maybe in the B2C as in the B2C and DTC world, but the in situ usage of those products is, and where video becomes really important in those scenarios?
Absolutely. I think you're right. B2B has been very underserved by marketing. And we can go in, there's a lot more circumstantial reasons of why I think that's been. I think it is changing. 10 years ago, the B word was anathema to anyone in B2B would laugh at you, like definitely not hire you, which is brand. And now you see Jason Lemkin and all these B2B thought leaders the past couple of years saying, actually, brand is, as a lot of other things get commoditized, your brand is really important. I think he put it, so we need payroll stuff like Zendesk. We need a sales CRM, Salesforce. It's natural that those words are coming out of my mouth next. And so a lot of people just default to those things because they have built a brand. And you could argue how they built that wasn't necessarily TV commercials, and we can get into all that. But the point is, marketing is absolutely essential for B2B and is often underdone. Video, in particular, because it has historically been expensive and scarce, the job of Airpost is to make it abundant, has been underutilized by B2B. And I agree with you, visualizing this pump for a food service application in breweries, like most of the companies making that have no DNA or care or passion about shooting a video of it. And if they
No.
do it themselves, it's going to be embarrassingly bad. They think it's supposed to be super nice. They just don't have time for it, and it doesn't happen. What if, with the 3 sort of clinical industrial videos they had from 2022 that they barely used that are in some drive somewhere. All of a sudden that could be brought to life with a voiceover that's talking about the value props, that's talking about who this pump is for and who it's not for. And it's a little thing that they throw into an email or throw up on LinkedIn or throw into a TV at a conference. I think that once video becomes abundant, you're going to see it in B2B a lot more. Airpost in particular, right now, is better set up for shooting a physical product,
Yes.
right? These buckets of unboxing shots, product and action shots, things like that. However, we've done it now for a couple B2B companies, including, funnily enough, a sister company of ours called sleepless.ai, which is essentially like a video editing bandwidth and for e-com companies trying to do acquisition and retention video ads, UGC video ads that don't have the big money for big agencies. And the head of BD, the head of sales for Sleepless, she was the product shots. She did like herself, struggling to do creative work on a laptop, going for a walk, looking at her phone. She ingested all this into Airpost, and it made all of these narratives around solving this problem of I need creative bandwidth. I just need somebody to edit these videos together for me this week. I'm busy. And the ads are good and we're running them. So it absolutely can work for B2B. But again, back to that word of focus. Right now, our core customer is that e-com seller, like you said, the 0 to 50 million, 18 hats, fired 3 different agencies, can't get the acquisition kind of video stuff off the ground. And this is like a panacea for them.
Wow, incredible. And apart from obviously all the other things you're working on, is there anything that your customers, your design partners, is there anything they're asking for already that you don't do yet, but it's on your radar? What's your priority over the next 12 months in terms of product development?
It's all around quality control and shoot lists. Mostly, I'd say the number one thing we hear is control. One of our strategic pillars is to make the customer the hero. We can make the best muffins in the world and give them to people, and they may taste them and be like, oh, these are pretty good, but they're not going to be as invested in them as if they made them themselves. There's this famous, maybe apocryphal, but story about Hostess or whatever in the 1950s, where they gave housewives fully baked cakes. Basically, they figured out how to like super preservative plastic wrap them up, and they didn't sell well. And then
if you add one egg, you have to add one egg. Then all of a sudden they feel
there
like
you go. You know the story. Yeah. Add an egg and mix it around and then put these 2 things together and then put it in the oven. And it was like one of the best selling products of the decade. So you got to make the person feel like they did the thing. By the way, another advantage to that is performance marketing wise, if you don't do that, they'll put the onus on Airpost for the performance. They'll treat us more like an agency. This is why people
the
hire
outcome
agencies.
Instead of just the output, the outcome.
Yeah. You don't count on if you do stuff with Canva and it's not performing, you don't fire Canva. If you do something with your ad agency and they're just lobbing things fully baked across the fence, you do fire them if they don't work. So we want to go more on the Canva direction. So control, giving you the ability, not necessarily one by one, not necessarily from scratch, because that's onerous, but like, here's 100 sort of half-baked things, shape them in the way you want and run them. It's your footage, by the way. It's your idea. You're shaping the ideas and the edits. That's the number one thing we hear from customers. And that's advancing very quickly. Really, honestly, right now, you can barely change the thing. I just got off a call with our next few sprints roadmap. In 2 months, you'll be able to shape the ad completely.
And how are you dealing with the fact, I'm guessing that you're not developing all of these LLMs in-house and all the Gen AI stuff in-house. You're consuming a vendor's technology, maybe taking it in via API, then you're generating all the prompts and all that sort of stuff. You're owning the prompt engineering and where that needs to get to. How are you guys dealing with the challenge? And even with DALL-E and ChatGPT Plus, et cetera, I run into an issue where generated images, even if I love the image, but I only want to change one thing, and I reprompt and I say, that image is great, but I need this one thing changed. It regenerates completely from scratch images. And so you can't go back and just change one thing about an existing Gen AI image. That is a real problem still to this day.
I think they're fixing that, Jason. I feel like I don't know about you, I read headlines. I don't always read the articles. I thought I saw a headline that either OpenAI or Midjourney or somebody had released where you can color the area that you want to re-render and literally don't touch any of the other pixels. I think that would be
amazing. Cool. Well, hopefully that's coming. And I guess that's obviously once they make that available to the APIs, then you'll be able to
maybe, but I will say actually in our case, it's different. So it's funny. We talk about this concept of re-rendering, right? Where it's, oh, I love that video ad. I want to make it, but I want him to talk more about Prime Day. And I don't want him to mention that thing at the end. And I don't like the shots that you open with, but I like that it's a hooky kind of shot. Do a different, oddly satisfying hook. We will be able to do that, but it might change other things about the ad. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my concern, because if I love
Yeah.
everything except those three things, and then it, of course, just regenerates 5 more completely from scratch rendered ads,
Yeah.
then I might not get everything that I got in the first one that I love so much in the process of trying to get the 3 things fixed that I want fixed.
So we have a lot to learn about that this year because I don't know what people will want and how it will go. For example, I know what you mean. If you go into Midjourney and say, that's perfect, just change the hand on or left hand doing a different thing, it's going to just give you a whole new person and then you're done. With video, because there's already a prompt that's very structured and specific, sometimes we have hard coded language. It's colloquial. It doesn't sound like AI. If you reprompt, if you're like, you'd say, do this, but with that, it's going to serve in the back end the same careful prompt we wrote. And at the end of that prompt, it's going to say, by the way, the user just watched this ad that you made last time with this prompt, and they said this, so incorporate this. And it should be very similar with just those changes. That's one path that we just have to learn about. And I can imagine use cases. And I just had another customer call this week where the person was like, I want to be able to re-render 30 things all for Halloween or all about our Christmas sale, talking about 30% off and working that in there. So I think re-render has a place. The other path is the more direct edits. I love this. I hear this all the time. I love this ad. It says a aardvark, and I wanted to say, it should say an aardvark, or like, and literally to change one letter, it's you got to wait for 15 minutes for a re-render to see it. And it's just very clunky. That's the main thing people want to do is I know exactly what I want to change. I'm used to changing a letter in an edit, swapping out a shot. Let me do that. So we're going to offer both.
Love it. Love it. Cool. And do you imagine that that ambition of $149 a month subscription platform, do you think that's going to hold? Or do you think, okay, cool, maybe for the first 12 months while we're still in kind of beta and fixing bugs and really rapidly improving and iterating the product to get to scale, we'll set it at $149, but we think ultimately this is going to end up maybe in the next 24 months at $499 a month or something like that. What are you thinking around pricing to make it really attractive, especially for new users and people that are effectively giving you additional feedback to make your product better? Once you get to a certain level of value that you think you're bringing to the table, do you think then, hey, no, we think we're going to warrant a little bit more in the future, or maybe we're going to have multiple tiers?
I think we're going to definitely have multiple tiers. I think if you don't have different pricing for different segments, you're doing it wrong. Understanding what those segments are and watching them develop and learning as we go will be critical. Right now, we're starting with this one persona that's the overworked e-com founder that's spending 5 figures a month, 6 figures a month, barely, but like they need help. That low base price will go up a little. Mostly, though, like you said, there'll be tiers. Some people just want 5 ads a month. Some people download 50 ads a month. They should be charged something different. So I think that's where we'll end up. It'll be a volume thing.
Love it. Love it. Cool. And you have business partners? You have investors? Like, how are you guys growing? Are you bootstrapped?
We are fully bootstrapped. We have incubated airpost.ai within ReadySet. So ReadySet is our digital agency with all these enterprise clients that I mentioned earlier. So we've really, and I think this is also important, we have really learned, and it's been in our DNA from the beginning, how to build an agency that's actually doing this at scale for very picky, very brand-centric business giant e-com companies, nascent startup e-com companies. So we know how to make these types of ads. I would compare that to what I see flooding into the space of ex-Google software engineer, superstar, or whomever, and they've never made a video ad for an e-commerce company, but they're like, oh, I'm going to make a thing that looks like an ad. Look at this. I see ads on my phone. And how hard could this be? It's a guy staring at the camera. He's lip syncing. And then you go put your shots in the background and do whatever it is. Oh, you want a few sample scripts? Here's a few sample scripts. They're super generic and cheesy. There's 3 of them. What do you do next week? So I think that the DNA of the team matters. And our DNA is squarely, we have an incredible tech team. They built Olapic prior to joining us. They've worked together for years. But our DNA is squarely in performance marketing versus like tech for tech's sake, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. It's gotta have a value, and in order for it to have value to agencies, it's first got to have value to individuals, and then it scales from there. And word of mouth starts to take over, network effects, and all the rest. So very exciting.
I'm a big bootstrap fan. ReadySet completely bootstrapped, and that's the path we've been on.
Love it. Love it. Now, what I'm going to do is I will put a link to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes. I will also put a link to the Airpost, and it's airpost.ai. Put a link to your website in the show notes, and where that people can go and join the waitlist. Other than that, if people want to get a hold of you, they want to chat about Airpost, they want to learn a little bit more, they want to have a conversation about what's coming next, what's the best way to get a hold of you and have those conversations?
Yeah, I'm just John at airpost.ai. So John at airpost.ai. I would love to hear from people. This is something completely new, and we don't want to just do what we think people want. We want to hear from customers and e-commerce founders and marketing folks. And so please feel free to email me.
Love it. So if they're $50 million or less, or 0 to 30 million or something like that on their journey, then I'm guessing that's the perfect kind of cohort of e-com founders that you want to have those kind of conversations.
Those are the folks we're trying to help.
Love it. Love it. Fantastic. Now, as we come down to the end of our time together, and we have had a great conversation, man, we're nearly at an hour here, and the time has absolutely flown by. This is where I get to flip the script. I get to turn the microphone over to you, let you ask me one question, any question you like, can be personal or professional. Mr. John Gargiulo from Airpost, what is your question for me today?
You've done hundreds of interviews with e-commerce founders. What do you think is the most underappreciated thing about what it takes to be a great e-commerce founder and do a great job building a successful e-commerce company?
So are we talking e-commerce brands now?
Yeah, you meet all these brands, they're dealing with so many things. Some of them scale, some of them don't. A lot of people outside my window make a lot of assumptions about e-commerce companies, e-com first companies. What do you think is something that they have to face every day that a lot of people don't realize?
That I think a lot of people make the assumption as an outsider to the industry that, you set up a Shopify store, you find some decent products to sell, you load them up on your website, and you're going to be an overnight success, right? Just because you use decent technology, maybe you got QuickBooks on the back end, maybe you run Klaviyo for your email marketing, maybe you connect up to a little bit of Google ads and Facebook ads, and you're off to the races. But the reality is very different. And I spend a tremendous amount of time on LinkedIn. I spend a tremendous amount of time on Reddit. I spend a tremendous amount of time in my community, contributing through the podcast and many other ways, going to conferences, speaking at conferences. And the reality is that the vast majority of e-commerce businesses fail. Just the regular business attrition rate is very high, something like over 50% of new businesses fail within the first 2 years of being started. I think anecdotally that the attrition rate in e-commerce is probably even higher. And there was a lot of people that got the COVID bump, right? Meaning that the TAM exploded during COVID for e-commerce. And basically, if you couldn't create a startup e-commerce brand and be successful during COVID, you probably never will be able to, because the move online was so accelerated artificially during that time because people had a gun to their head to stay home. And the reality is it's much, much harder than people think. And there are many more strong brands out there than ever before that are already dominating in their category or vertical online. And so there's very few niches left that aren't already very well dominated by some very large players. And although it's easier than ever before to start an e-commerce business, because in 2 hours I can have a Shopify site up and running with an off-the-shelf theme and load my information in there, get set up for a ShopPay account, and I'm off to the races. Load up a couple of products, put some descriptions in, put some images in, and I'm off to the races, right? Being successful in e-commerce is very difficult. And the gatekeepers, especially from a marketing perspective, the gatekeepers of Google and Meta and Amazon now, increasingly, they're the third largest ad network in the world now, after Amazon and after Google and Meta. The reality is that the gatekeepers are taking an ever increasing chunk out of your potential profitability as a business. And you almost, I wouldn't say you 100% need them, but unless you are a famous founder, unless you're very well known in your space, you're very well known in your vertical, or you're a movie star, or you're a sports athlete, or you're something like that, where you can get around the gatekeepers or the toll roads of accessing new customers and acquiring new customers. Unless you have a shortcut to that in some way, it is very difficult to be successful in e-commerce today. Very difficult.
I think you're absolutely right. That's really well said. I was literally thinking about that yesterday, both sides, how easy it is to start something. We've all had ideas for products that are like, how does this not exist
in the world yet?
Yeah, those niche products, but like I meet people all the time who are really struggling to make money. I saw a pretty compelling blog post that until shipping by drone or until shipping costs for these guys can go down by 80%, it's going to be really hard to break through. And a lot of my ecom friends are going wholesale as a result.
Yes, that's a large part of my consulting work is
Hmm.
to D2C brands that are trying to de-risk their business by establishing strategic wholesale channels and routes to market to massively up their distribution, massively increase their scale,
Yeah.
massively decrease their CAC because now the CAC is shared between them and their wholesale partners or retail partners. So absolutely, I think a lot of brands are starting to realize D2C is just a channel. It's not a business model. And they're starting to realize, oh my God, okay, if Allbirds is just about ready to go out of business and they were one of the biggest global D2C darlings ever, how much harder is it going to be for me to find success as a pure play D2C brand?
I want to
Right?
what was that? That was a great statement. D2C, not a
It's a
business
channel,
model. It's a
not a
channel.
business model.
Yeah, channel and a business model. That's great. Yeah, so true.
Wow. Listen, man, this was a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate your time and I can't wait to speak to you again soon. Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? Then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.